Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorcom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. And today's news isn't important news, it's record news. It's record revenues coming out of Valeo Pharma, which trades in Canada under VPH. For our friends in the US, VPHIF, and even for our friends in Europe on Frankfurt under VP2. With us is Steve Saviuk. He's the CEO of the company. If for those of you new to the story, because you saw record revenues, here's what you need to know. Typically, when you hear about biopharma, you all think, like I do, big R&D, long FDA clinical trials, cash-burning companies with high risk, high reward. Valeo has turned that business model on its head as a commercial stage revenue-generating and profitable Canadian pharmaceutical company. What they're doing basically is they license and acquire the Canadian rights to commercial stage proprietary drugs and commercialize them here in Canada. So this in-licensed business model means no development or clinical risk. More than just lip service, what's it translated into? Well, record revenue for 2021, $13.6 million, up 81%. Gross profit, $4 million, up 186%, and so much more to talk about. Steve, welcome to the show, my friend.
George, it's great to be back.
Hey, congratulations to you and the team. I mean, we knew that Q1, Q2, and Q3 were always strong, so it's not like this is a surprise number, but it's great to be able to bring that number in. Here's what I see as the theme. Great numbers, but the last half of the story tells of the year tells a story. You did $9.1 million in revenue. If I just do simple extrapolation, you're already at $18 million run rate right now. So how happy are you guys with both the year and the last half of the year's performance?
George, it was a record year. We're never satisfied. We always think we could do better. How could we do better? But you do have to take at least a moment and thank our shareholders, our board, our management team, our employees for putting out a really strong effort during a couple of years now that have been really tough. People certainly appreciate with COVID that this is not just an excuse that companies are struggling with COVID. This is a reality of people having to work from home, limited access to physicians, patients not going to see their physicians because they're worried about COVID, hospitals only allowing patients in and the sick in. So it's been a trying time, and to be able to jump our revenues the way we did is a real testament to the type of people we have at Valeo Pharma. I'm very proud of them.
Is that last half of the year, I calculate about 9.1, let's call it 9 million in revenue. Is that kind of indicative of how, I'm not asking you to give a projection, but is that kind of indicative of how the growth looks like already for the next fiscal year?
That's correct. I mean, you have to look back to, there's always reasons for that revenue growth. And when you look back to it, basically we have three key products. We commercialize about 8 products that are in various therapeutic areas, but there's three of them are the real big revenue drivers for the short to medium term. That's Redesca, our anticoagulant, which is a hospital-based product,
and our blood thinner, to speak English.
And our more recent launches, which are 2 innovative asthma products that are tremendous improvement in asthma care in Canada. Well, Redesca was launched really at the beginning of the third quarter, so the first half of the year had almost no revenue from these new products. Redesca launched last week of April, certainly contributed to the third quarter and again in the fourth. When you look at our 2 asthma therapies, we only put our team together, and we have a team on asthma that's over 60 people in the field, actually in front-facing physicians and nurses and pharmacists. And that really started in September. So we really had 2 months of early day kind of minor sales. So Redesca drove most of that revenue. So that 9 million, when you look at it, it was on the backs predominantly of Redesca and obviously our existing portfolio, but the growth from continued growth from Redesca and from our asthma therapies, we're starting to see it again, continuing in the first quarter. That's why we're saying sequentially in the press release we put out earlier this week, we expect sequential quarterly growth and significant sequential quarterly growth. And
yeah, because these came into your pipeline in stages over 2021.
That's correct.
So is it safe to say now, Steve, that beginning, because the quarter ended, I think, end of October, right? So
year end October, first quarter, January 31st, we'll be announcing the results at the end of March. that there's a good jump from the fourth quarter in terms of revenues, and Q2 is off to a strong start. So that's it bodes well. And a lot of things affect sales of drugs in Canada. I mean, we've talked about COVID and the ability to actually interact with physicians. But the other aspect, which is extremely important, is who pays for drugs. Private insurance companies typically pay, as do the public, the provinces themselves. And when you look at those two payers, you're looking at well over 90% of how drugs are paid for in Canada. And we've made huge strides both with Redesca and with our asthma therapies in getting both private payer. All three drugs have over 90% coverage in Canada, and public payer, where again, all three drugs have over 80% coverage in Canada. So you need that in place. And we did it in record time, getting this kind of reimbursement, as it's called. And without it, you're really handcuffed because, the Canadian social medicine system, people are used to having someone paying for their drugs and not out of pocket. So we got that in place, and that is going to help drive. We just announced Ontario for our two asthma drugs last week. So it's just starting. Quebec was announced, several weeks before that. These are obviously the two biggest provinces in Canada. Yep. Alberta's already on. We're still waiting for BC, but we expect that to come through soon. So, we'll be right across Canada, and that's what is going to help sustain this strong growth in our revenues.
Yeah, and that's another booster. So booster number one was the drugs were being staged in over 2021. Now they're pretty much all in full gear. The second booster you just talked about is the fact that getting coverage from insurance companies, private, or provinces, public, that was kind of staged in 2021. So those are going to be full right now. And then I think there's a third one, Steve, which is your corporate structure. You've talked a lot about that. You've really focused on that a lot in our interviews, where you said, George, we're expanding the team, sales and marketing, delivery, fulfillment, all of that. Even that was growing in stages. So is it fair to say right now that as of right now, Steve, all three stages, the products, the reimbursements, and the corporate structure are, I mean, nothing's ever 100%, but seems like all three are on full boost, and that could do tremendous things for 2022.
Exactly. I think, when we look at we've grown over the last 12 months from roughly 30 employees to over 100 employees. 70% of those employees are on the commercial side. They're out there in the field talking to in the hospitals with doctors, nurses, visiting physicians, visiting pharmacists to make them aware of the benefits of our drugs. That's a major effort to hire up and bring these people and train these people. We've got a great team on the commercial side, but internally, and we've grown to 100 employees, and I don't want anyone to get the impression that we've added like some fat on the bandwagon, that we've grown big and bloated. We're a very lean team, but we've got a great small head office team of people, great medical team, a regulatory QC, commercial, order to cash. It's just I think we've got, so people should not really see much in the way of expense growth. I think we're at that max level of run rate. What they should start seeing is revenue growth, margin growth. Our EBITDA, or what is now a negative EBITDA, shrinking to becoming, by the end of this fiscal year, which is October 2022, to it being a positive EBITDA. That's I made a comment on our call that we had following the results, the release of the results, where I said it's our resolute focus to become profitable by the end of the year. So every expense is being looked at, every way to grow our revenues is being looked at. It's an important factor. It changes us significantly in the eyes, and we appeal to a broader band of investors once we turn that corner to profitability. And once we turn it, we're not coming back.
And to be clear, it's not as if you have some kind of a bloated structure where you have to look for cutting costs. The fact of the matter is, every growth company, whether it's a Gorcom on our side or Valeo, a pharma company, you have to build capacity in anticipation of the growth you think that's coming. So you have to undertake those capital expenditures, whether you're expanding warehouse, those operating expenditures, you're adding on new people, but you're not immediately generating the revenue yet, but it's coming. So I think it's fair to say that you absorbed a lot of those expenses and you don't expect them to, you expect that SG&A to stay the same, but now what's coming is all that sales that they're there to support and optimize. So it seems like 2022 is just going to be a fantastic year, man.
Yeah, that's where we're certainly expecting that. And you're absolutely right. And that's true of almost all drugs that are launched, that there is an uptake period. The reimbursement is not always there. The fact that physicians are science-based. They want to see, they want to talk, they want to understand, they want to ask questions. They're not, and it takes some time for them, and they want to try it on patients. That's why sampling is a big phenomenon, where you give certain limited quantities that they give to their patients, and they ask their patient, how are you feeling? And especially a drug like for asthma, where, if I give you a cholesterol drug, I mean, typically you don't feel very different from one day to the next. When you take an asthma therapy, it changes your life if you see some improvement. So, this is a really key part, and all that takes time, because you can imagine that a patient that walks out with a sample is not coming back the next day to see his physician. He's coming back maybe in a month or so. And at that point, then the prescriptions start to rise. So what we're seeing with our two asthma therapies, and we're tracking this closely, is we're having month over month prescription growth, and month over month, more doctors are prescribing our two therapies, Enerzair and Atectura. And this is what we want to track, and we'll be disclosing some of those numbers to our investors on a quarterly basis, so that they can track how well we are doing with these two therapies. And again, we talked about peak sales. We're still looking at peak sales with our existing portfolio of well over 100 million, closer to 125 to 150 within 4 to 5 years, but we're trying to bring it in at 4. And the reason for that is these two new asthma drugs have well over $100 million of potential. These are amongst the premier drugs in asthma today. Asthma, as you know, is a big therapeutic area. Almost 4 million Canadians suffer from some degree of asthma. We focus on those that are a little more moderate to severe asthmatics. Well over 1 million Canadians have that condition also. So it's a big market, and we have a lot of expectations for our drugs and the team to deliver it. It's all about execution now.
Now, and I can't wait for the execution, because I can't wait for it. But I got to ask, since you've got this new corporate structure in place, it would be easy to think that you want to add even more, leverage that whole corporate structure even better, with maybe new products. So how does the product pipeline look? Do you stick with what you have right now and just optimize those, or how does 2022 look for adding more great revenue generating drugs?
Well, when you have the products, especially Enerzair, which is really, in my view, has a potential to become one of the top selling products in Canada of any drug. I'm not just saying of asthma drugs. You got to keep your focus on what you have. But having said that, a company is always looking to grow, and you grow by adding products. You go by leveraging your sales force, by having parts of your sales team that do or will develop excess capacity. And I think specifically of our hospital sales team that is working very hard on Redesca now, but certainly has some capacity for other products. So definitely looking and continuing to look at products. I think every company does so, whether you're Valeo Pharma or Pfizer, you're always doing product development or looking at new products, adjusting your portfolio, focusing on how do you best grow your company? How do you best service your customers? And, our customers are physicians and patients. Really, there's our stakeholders in many ways. So we have to continue to look. And will we bring out something else this year? It's possible. You never know. There's active discussions underway for other products. But I always hate to jinx myself by saying definitely until we sign, and until the ink is on the paper, we don't currently have another drug or that we're going to be announcing. But there are discussions and due diligence and what have you, and everything is always take a step back and say, how does this add value to Valeo? Is this going to make us a bigger company quicker? Is this going to add value to our shareholders and our stakeholders?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is your success is only going to bring more success, right? There's going to be pharma companies all over the world who maybe were considering Valeo, but now they see your success with these 4 great products in 2021. And the more that you're going to bring I'm right to assume, Steve, that your pipeline is just going to grow from George Com Pharmaceutical calling you from Ireland or some part of the world saying, hey, you want to license our product into Canada, we'd love to have you as our partner.
Absolutely. I mean, it's when I look back 2 years ago and compare it to today, or even a year ago, much more active, much more high level business development, talking to companies on a global basis rather than just a Canadian basis, looking at what opportunities there are, and whether it's for this year or next year or beyond. But it definitely, we've moved up a level to that mid-tier status within Canada, certainly by people, not yet by revenue, but that revenue is coming back and will catch up very quickly.
Well, between Steve, the products hitting high gear, the insurance, on public and private now in full gear, the structure of the corporation now in full gear, and even COVID, winding down, more people feeling more comfortable, go back to the doctor, see the doctor. It seems like 2022 for the company is just going to be an amazing year, and we can't wait to see what you're going to pull. I'd love to hear, what your internal projections are. I know I've got my back of the napkin math. I'm not going to say it, but I'd love to hear it. But I guess we'll have to wait for the next quarter to come out and bring it
That's
back
right.
on and talk
Yeah,
about
we're working. We're just going quarter by quarter now, and we have absolutely a number in our heads for this year, which is significant growth from last year. But what we did, excuse me, in our sorry, in our press release, sequential quarterly growth that will be significant. It won't be consistent. It won't be 25% every quarter. Some quarters might be much higher than that. It's just the nature of the.
You're still in growth mode. You're still in growth mode.
Seasonality in some cases too, but I see that growth, and we said 2021 was a transformative year. It was, and 2022 will be even more so. So for our shareholders and for your viewers watching today, I would say, follow Valeo Pharma. There's good things happening, and we will try to be as transparent and as informative to our shareholder base as possible. One thing we don't always talk about, but is a key tenet of our culture, is that we're an employee-owned company. Almost all employees own shares, management, board, and employees.
Even your dog saying, "Hey, I'm a shareholder too."
My dog Kobe is a shareholder too, or a stakeholder in any case. And we're very, that aligns us with all our shareholders. We all have the same objective: build the revenues, build value, help Canadians. That's our primary focus, and everything else will take care of itself. And I'm looking forward to being back on your show with more exciting news, whether it be product, revenue, or otherwise. And we'll keep your viewers up to date with what I think is going to become a really marquee Canadian pharmaceutical company.
Well, Steve, you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. So whatever you guys are doing there, it's working. Congratulations. Fantastic, fantastic result. I love the second half numbers. I love that the 4 pillars are all kicking in, and I can't wait to see the sequential growth, because like you said, you guys are never satisfied. I'm satisfied as a shareholder, but again, I'm looking forward to seeing that growth. But today we're going to celebrate this, because sometimes you need to celebrate big wins. Celebrate it, and then we'll have you back on for the next one.
Great. Thanks a lot, George. It's always a pleasure to be on your broadcast, and I think this year will be a good year for us, and I certainly hope the same for you.
Well, Steve, it's easy having you on, man, because we're not scrambling for content. We're not clutching at straws for some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. You guys are a freight train that's on its way. So thanks for being here, my friend.
Again, thanks for having me.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, to Steve Saviuk and his dog. He's the CEO of Valeo Pharma, who trades in Canada under VPH. For friends in the US, VPHIF. If you're just discovering the company for the first time because you're seeing them on Agoracom or you're seeing them in the press releases, because whenever you see record revenues for a small cap, especially in this risk-off environment that we're in right now, this is a great time to discover successful record-breaking small cap companies, because you're able to get them at a time when the world is in risk-off mode. And if everything goes right, could do very well for yourself when we're back in risk-on mode. So how to do your due diligence? Get to Agoracom, take a look at the company's profile page, because we've got all the segments of the company neatly broken down for you to understand. And then once you got that foundational information, head over to the Valeo website, do your deep dive due diligence, and hopefully discover your next great small cap biopharma company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.